Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Nina Ribena's Art Journal Prompts and More. It's week 2 of this month's watercolour theme, and today I'm going to be using my Artist Loft watercolours. This is a cheap set here that I picked up from Hobbycraft here in the UK. This is a set of 36 colours and it cost £7, so I want to see how this compares to the Gansai Tambis that I used last week. The prompt for this week is flowers, which you can interpret in any way you like. So let me share my process and I'll catch up with you at the end. The prompt this week is flowers, and you can see that I've already done some preparation. I've drawn 5 whimsical flowers on my piece of watercolour paper, and now I'm just activating the Artist Loft watercolours with some water first. Now, last week when I did my Galaxy, I was working wet on wet, meaning that I applied some water to the page before I added any paint. And this week I want to work wet on dry, so I'm just applying the paint to the dry piece of watercolour paper, and I just want to see what difference this makes. Now, I experienced quite a lot of page flooding last week. I just used far too much liquid, so my aim this week is to try and reduce that and just be mindful of the amount of paint and liquid that I'm adding. So it'll be interesting to see how I get on. I start off by applying some of the orange watercolour, and then I'm just dropping in various shades in the same colour family just to add some interest to my buds. I thought this month was a good opportunity to pull out as many of my watercolour products as is feasibly possible, and as much as time permits, just so that I can compare how they work against one another. And already I'm noticing that the Artist Loft colours are not quite as vibrant as the Gansai Tambi ones I was using last week, and they have sort of kind of a chalky texture, which I actually quite like. Very, very pastel. And I know that won't be to everybody's cup of tea, but I do like the effect that I'm getting here. I think these paints are excellent value for money. This set was £7 for 36 colours, and I just think it's a great palette to practice with. You can see I've decided to use my Chinese paintbrush again. I picked this up when I was in London last year from Chinatown. I just really enjoy using this paintbrush. It was relatively inexpensive. I think it was £3 or £4 in one of the Chinese shops. It holds plenty of liquid, which I like, and I also like that it's got a pointy tip, which makes it easy to do fine detail. I also like the fact that it's a long paintbrush as well, which makes it easier to reach over so that I don't get my hand and smudge my painting as well. I just find it really nice to use. I was doing quite well at controlling the amount of liquid, but here we go. I apply way too much here, but I do find that it's easy enough to mop it up, especially with this paintbrush. But I'm sure this is something I'll learn to control as I get better and practice more. Now, the one thing I've noticed is that as these paints are drying, they're quite patchy, and I don't know whether that's the Artist Loft watercolours or the way that I'm applying the paints. So for anybody who is watching this that is experienced with watercolours, and you can see that, you know, it's the way that I'm applying them and something I'm doing wrong, any advice would be very much appreciated. I didn't seem to experience this problem with the Gansai Tambi paints that I was using last week, so I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the prompt this week is flowers. You can either do whimsical flowers like me, or if you want to do something more realistic, it's entirely up to you. You could use a flower book as reference, or even pick some flowers from your garden if you wanted to. You can interpret this in any way you like. I want to say an enormous thank you to everybody who took part in the Galaxy Challenge in the Facebook group last week. You posted some amazing artwork, and there was some unusual interpretations as well, which was really lovely to see. Now, I know that some of you are quite proficient at using watercolours, whereas others are not. So I'm sure that some of you felt that this was a bit intimidating or even frightening. But I do think that, you know, it's good for all of us to step outside of our comfort zone and try things that we're not particularly confident at doing, because, you know, that's the only way we learn. As I said last week, my watercolours have been sat in my stash gathering dust, because the only time I ever use watercolours is for mixed media backgrounds. So I'm certainly hoping that I will develop my skills and just, you know, feel more confident by the end of the month. And I'm just hoping this will give me a better understanding of how to use them properly. Now my flowers are pretty much done, but they're looking a little bit flat, so I just used some of that dark purple and a very fine paintbrush here just to add some shading along the bottom, and I absolutely love the grungy look that I'm getting from doing this. It just looks really pleasing to my eye. So this is my painting. This has sat on my desk for a couple of weeks whilst I was away on holiday. I just didn't have time to finish the video off before I went out to the Far East. And I'm looking at it now, and I just don't know whether I want to do something to the background or where to take it next. I do know that I do want to add some doodling, and I'm going to use this pen if I can get the lid off. This is the Muji pen, 0.25mm. It's the Muji hexagonal pen, and I just feel as if I just want to darken and add some darkness again. I just love the way that the bottom of this just looks really grungy, and so I'm just going to see if I can add just a few scribbly lines just to the base area here, just a little bit. That's all. I don't want to go over the top with this. Really subtle, so that you can barely see it, but just you know, a few squiggly lines just to give it a more whimsical kind of look. And then I want to add some white, and you can see as well that since you last saw it, I've finished off the leaves. It just looked a bit odd, and so before I went away I just did add leaves to both sides. There we go. I think I'm happy with that. And then I'm going to use a white gel pen. This is the Uniball Signo, and I think I'm just going to start off by adding, oh hang on, let's see if I can get this pen to work first. Why isn't this doing anything? Again, just to try and add some brightness. So let's do the stems first. I've got so many watercolour ideas, and because of the holiday season, vacation, as some of you call it, there just isn't enough to fit in everything that that I want to do. So I'm hoping that I'll carry on with watercolours once this month has finished. You know, lots of interesting techniques I'd like to try. Nothing professional, because, you know, just ideas that I've got in my head that I would like to try out. I really like how that looks. Now, I've got this urge to add some doodles like this. I love how that looks. Oh, that's gorgeous. So pretty. Just along the base here. I think that's enough. Doesn't that look so pretty? That's gorgeous. I love that. I don't know whether you can see, I've continued doodling, and I did some kind of hearts and things. So let's have a look. So some hearts here. Just continuing that doodling, just adding interest. There we go. Not overthinking this, as I say, at all, just scribbling and doodling away. I love how that looks. It just looks quirky. But I do want to add some splatters, so I'm going to add some of this darker purple paint here. Let me just find a pen, and I'm just going to add a few splatters to the background. Not too many, but just to give my background a bit of depth. I've got a splat there that I don't want, so I'm just wiping that away. And I'm just going to be careful not to overdo this. And I think I want to add a little bit of white as well. I decided to mount the piece of watercolour paper on some craft cardstock, and I really like the look of that. I've also decided to pull out my Gansai Tambi watercolours as well, just because the white in this set is much more opaque, and I want those splatters to stand out as much as possible. As much as I love this as it is, it needs a border. I knew I'd end up thinking that. So I'm just going to put some masking tape around the edges, and then what have I done with it? I've got one of these brushes here. I got this in a set a while ago from Amazon. Really inexpensive. These are all over YouTube and Amazon at the moment, and maybe I'll do a review at a later date. But what I am going to do is just add a border like this. Oh, you see, instantly I just love that more. It's just framing my page, which was just what it was missing. Here's my finished watercolour painting. In all honesty, I think I've gone completely overboard with the iced spruce. What do you think? As I was editing the video and I saw the piece before I'd added any of the iced spruce, I really liked the white space, although I felt at the time that I wanted to add a border and felt that it needed something else. But I don't know, things look different when you see them through a camera lens. So let me know your thoughts. Just to reiterate though, as I did last week, you know, this is not a tutorial because I'm just not experienced enough with watercolours. This is just me experimenting and practicing and hopefully sharing my mistakes to avoid you making them along the way. So I look forward to seeing how everybody else gets on with their flowers prompt this week, and look forward to sort of all your wonderful artwork being shared in the Facebook group as usual. And if you enjoyed my project today, as always, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up. So any tips and advice that anybody can offer will be much appreciated. Take care everyone, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye for now.